Here we fucking go again. It never stops. So, ironically, I actually found this article at the same time that I was talking to a friend of mine, one of my patrons actually, about how there is a much higher demand for racism and sexism than there actually is racism and sexism. This is not something new. This is something we've known for a few years now, but we were talking about it. Basically, what that means, if you don't know, is that SJWs are searching for racism and sexism, demanding racism and sexism, calling things that aren't racist or sexist, and things like that more than actual racist or sexist things are actually happening. Because SJWs constantly need something to complain about. We've seen this the last pretty much decade now. We're going on 9 years now. And they're obsessive. If they don't have something to complain about or something to make them feel special, things like pronouns, for example, their lives basically diminish into nothing. They need to complain about something, they need to feel unique, they need to feel special, and they also need to white knight everybody, which is why they constantly call black people victims. Not because black people are victims, because objectively speaking they're not, but they want them to be victims. Now, of course, wanting someone to be a victim is racist, but they don't care. They'd rather say, you're a victim because you're black. Be a victim, complain about it, and pretend you are. And the goal is so they can say, I need you to do that so that I can defend you from things that don't exist, okay? If I can't defend you, then I'm useless. You know, that's basically how it works. And we're seeing yet another example of that. This is a real article. A writer and coach, a black woman, 29, reveals she was told she's not truly black after writing a viral open letter blasting the cult of wokeness, or SJWs, and insisting she's not oppressed by her skin color. So this is a black woman who became successful, like most of them are, unlike white people who are basically dying as far as success goes and pretty much everything else because of modern culture pushing them out of the workforce and everything. That's a fact. A real fact, not a narrative, a fact. And she basically said, no, me being black has not oppressed me, okay, I'm doing perfectly fine, I have a great job and I'm happy, and people don't just come in my face and say, F you, N-word, because I'm black, despite what society tells her to think about herself. And she wrote a letter saying, yeah, no, I'm black, but I'm perfectly fine, and then they said, no, you're not truly black then. It reminds me of that one news clip where this guy, I forgot what his name was, but he was called a mediocre negro. That's not a bad word, but people might think it is. Yeah, I think it was mediocre, or something like that, because he was another black guy who just said, no, I'm fine, I don't have to be a victim, and I don't need you to fight for me for no reason. But anyway, let's read this. A writer and coach, viral what she said, I'm not oppressed because I'm black. That is correct. Africa Brooke, her name is Africa, wow, who lives in London, spoke to the diary of a CEO host, Stephen Bartlett, about her views on race and what it really means to be oppressed for his popular podcast. The writer and coach specializes in helping people in groups with personal or professional challenges related to self-censorship and self-sabotage, and has almost 230,000 followers on Instagram. Last year, she wrote an open letter declaring she was leaving the cult of wokeness that insists she will be forever oppressed because she's black, while others truly told her she's not truly black. Truly disgusting. I'm hoping a lot of you know this, but if you don't, I'll tell you. This is what it's always been like. This is not an isolated incident. This is constant. Like I said, SJWs want black people to be victims, and they want white people to be attackers, despite what reality actually shows us. And in doing so, they are so fucking... I mean, there's multiple examples as to why SJWs are racist, but this is like one of the worst examples. I mean, can you imagine what it does to anybody? Like, forget just black people. Just any human being. If you go up to any person and say what an SJW would say, and here's what they say: you are a victim. You are a victim. And you are a victim because of your skin color, or it could be a physical thing, because again, we're talking about everyone, not just black people. if you look at somebody who is an amputee in a wheelchair, has some kind of mental or physical illness, skin color, whatever the fuck it is, if you go up to anybody and say, you are a victim because you have this, this, and this, and because you have these things, people are going to insult you, they're going to attack you, you will never have a good job, you will have horrible confidence, horrible self-esteem, and the person will look at them and go like, thanks, I guess I will then. Like, how about trying to encourage people that you think are disadvantaged because of a physical, mental illness, or disability, or skin color, or race, or height, whatever the fuck? Like, I hate this. I hate the white knighting of SJWs, how they always say things like, we'll fight for the people who are disadvantaged. Meanwhile, making disadvantaged people just feel different and worse. People want to feel the same way everyone else does. Nobody wants... Like, if somebody's in a wheelchair, you're not supposed to go up to them and say, hello, different person who can't walk! You're supposed to treat them like anybody fucking else, because that's what they want. Not what you SJWs think they want, you fucking scumbags. But let's check out this video clip.
I'll tell you one of the biggest ones that most people didn't like a couple of years ago. When I said that as a black person, I'm not oppressed. And I mean, you could say that anywhere else in the world and it would be like, yeah, of course, we understand. But people, maybe a small minority, but a very loud minority, especially at that time where
She's every word right so far, yes. SJWs are a small minority, but they're the most listened to. And they are the ones shaping our culture because even though they're the smallest amount of people, they're also the loudest amount of people.
Everything was so overly politicized. Really didn't like me saying that as a black person here in the Western world, having have come from Zimbabwe, a country that is, the population is genuinely, truly oppressed. And I know what that looks like.
Thank you. This is something that I've said in past videos too. These people know what actual oppression is, either because they experienced it in the past, they actually understand what happens in other countries, unlike SJWs. I mean, it's the same shit of when feminists over here complain about being oppressed, even though they have less issues than men, and not only do they have less issues than men, but they never talk about women who are oppressed in other countries, like in Saudi Arabia, for example. They never talk about that. Not because they don't care. I'm sure an SJW would care. The problem is that they don't know about it. They're way too stupid and privileged to even recognize other countries. They're just not smart enough. It's the same thing of what she's saying here.
I'm not oppressed. I'm not oppressed because of my race. I don't see my race as a burden. Yes.
That's right. It doesn't matter what skin color you are. You can do whatever you set your mind to. Okay? The only people, and I don't care who gets mad at me for this because I've already proved it 1,000 times, the only people in the modern world, in the first world, who actually are oppressed are white people. That's the actual truth. And I know you're thinking, like, what the fuck are you talking about? No, we are. Because of modern culture, because of things like affirmative action, and how everybody hates white people today, we are facing oppression. Things like telling white people that they're evil pieces of shit, pushing us out of the workforce, saying we have white privilege, and a list of other things that either make white people just lose their jobs, lose their homes, lose their confidence, their self-esteem, lose their ability to move up in the world anymore, because you're pushing white people out to make room for diversity, which, by the way, diversity is a literal code word for no whites allowed. We see racist videos all over the internet. I even reacted to one a few months ago. There was this clip of this black woman in like a school or something, and she was literally saying shit like, okay, I'd like all the white people to leave because you're making the black people feel uncomfortable. Things like that happen all the time, and it's always 100% of the time targeted towards white people. Reverse the races. What if a white person came and said, sorry, black people, you're going to have to leave the room because you're making the white people feel uncomfortable? That would be considered racist. But because they're doing it towards white people, it's not considered racist, and it's considered a norm of society. And we see examples like that almost every single day. You cannot tell me that those things that happen all the time are not examples of racism towards white people. And also debunk the already constantly debunked myth of white privilege. Another example, I'm just going to pull things out that come out to my head that I've made videos about in the past, like the Coca-Cola training to be less white. Imagine if the training said be less black. How about those signs that somebody made like 5 years ago that said it's okay to be white, which were just signs put up around different countries in the U.S. to kind of be like, it's okay to be white, you don't have to feel bad, because in our modern culture, it's a norm to feel bad and guilty for being born white. So somebody put signs up all around the country saying it's okay to be white, and the mainstream media called it white supremacy. But again, if the sign said it's okay to be black, it would be hailed as this amazing thing. The mainstream media peddling fake crime stats, it never ends. I could go on and on and on, trust me, and I have in other videos. White people are the most oppressed class in modern day in the first world. That is a fucking fact.
There are things that I've experienced, a lot of adversity that I've experienced. I know the reality of what it means to live under the systems that a lot of us do in and out of the Western world. I acknowledge all of that.
And she's absolutely right. Every single fucking word she said is true. Look at this. She said, I said that I don't feel oppressed as a black woman, and a lot of people didn't agree with me. They didn't like it. Imagine that. Imagine telling somebody, actually, I can be successful as long as I work hard, and I did it. No, you can't. That's so racist. Many people thought I was undermining black people and women. So it undermines black people and women to be a black woman who's successful? Or what you actually meant to say was that her life experiences goes against your modern narrative and you don't like it. That's what you actually meant, right? Don't even answer. I was messaged mainly by white people telling me that I am oppressed, but I wasn't raised to be a victim and I refuse to be one. So this is true, by the way. Most SJWs are white, unfortunately, and they love white knighting because they're fucking lunatics. But I love this. I wasn't raised to be a victim. That's right. That's the thing. It's like one of the examples of being raised to be a victim are the black people who run around demanding reparations. You gotta love those people. It's like, you give me reparations for things that you didn't do right now. Little side note about that. Doing that is literally an example of your privilege. Anyway, that's another thing that I could go on about for hours, but I won't. It's already been proven. And look at this part here. People always want to hear the hardship stories when it comes to race. So the reason why they always ask about these hardships is because they have to stick with the narrative. If somebody interviews a black person for any reason and they don't bring up their skin color, that would be nice. That would be not being racist for once. But the reason they do it is because our modern society believes that we have to keep pushing that black people are victims. And if we let that go for even one split second, we might see reality, and we can't have that in modern day. We need to keep pushing it because the demand is there, but there's not really much supply for it, as I said in the beginning of the video. So again, what if there isn't one? When I get interviewed, I get asked about my color of skin, which is racist. Instead of being a black entrepreneur, why can't I just be an entrepreneur? Exactly. Now, if you watched one of my old videos, and I strongly suggest you do, it's called The Only Way to End Racism. Watch the video, trust me. In the video, though, the overall moral was stop talking about it. The only way to truly end racism, and this is true, the only way to end racism is to just ignore the existence of color. You cannot change the past, and you will never change the past. So lamenting about the past forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever is not going to fucking do anything. It's just going to enrage everybody who is like, can you fucking stop? We don't live in that time anymore. People who did live in that time are now dead. Get the fuck over it and move on. Okay? Now, before some enraged lunatic black person says, yeah, just get over it. You don't understand, Matt. No, fuck off. You don't understand. You were not alive during that time, and you're not feeling the effects of that time anymore. The only reason people now claim to be feeling the effects of that time, do you want the cold hard truth? I'll give it to you. The only reason that you believe that you are feeling the effects of that time today is because you keep talking about it and have convinced yourself that you are being affected by it even though you're not. You want to be a victim. You chose to be a victim all because you want reparations from white people. That is the actual, factual, objective truth. Anyway, back to my video. So, in the video, The Only Way to End Racism, I talked about the only way to actually truly end it is just stop fucking talking about it. Stop talking about skin color as a whole, and just be a human being. I know this is hard for you, racist people, but that is actually the only way. You will never end racism if you keep fucking bringing up the past. You must ignore the existence of color completely and just be a human fucking being who bleeds red. Yes, I am not saying that racist people don't exist. There are some racist fucking people. But those racist people in, let's say, southern states in the US are not the overall, like, human race. They're a select few people. But, as always, SJWs love to take those few people and extrapolate it to be all white people in the world or whatever. Lunatics. I love this quote. They've become regressive in their quest to be progressive. Exactly. That's why progressivism is not actual progress. People call them progressives, which they shouldn't be called. But just look at our world. Seriously, look at our world right now and how it's changed since 2012. We have regressed as a human race in an almost entirely 180. And SJWs are the reason for it. The letter received outrage, with some even labeling Africa a white sympathizer, among other things, and not truly black. This right here is racist, but because SJWs are the ones saying it, so it's okay apparently, right? One YouTuber said, "This is such a powerful interview. The way Africa is so unapologetic, honest, and transparent with her views is a breath of fresh air in today's climate." Absolutely true. It's so nice to hear somebody who does not believe that they're a victim, and knows that they are able to simply work hard and accomplish whatever they want if they do. It's a fucking wonderful thing. It's too bad the majority of the world today doesn't see it that way, but that's the real way to see the real world. Anyway, as always, fuck SJWs, man.